Hello, and welcome to the Channel of Stories. Dear listeners, before we start the story, please subscribe to the channel and give this video a like and share in the comments where you are from. Thank you. Here we go.
War isn't where you expect to find love. It's where you expect to lose things, friends, limbs, your grip on sleep. But sometimes, in the dust and heat and chaos, someone looks at you like you're still human. And you hold on to that harder than your weapon. I met him in Afghanistan. His name was Connor. Tall, quiet, sharp eyes. The kind of guy who didn't say much but never missed a thing. He had that stare that cut through bullshit like a blade, but he never used it to hurt. Just to see. I was medevac. My Black Hawk was home more than any building ever was. I picked up the broken, the bloodied, the barely hanging on. My job was to get them out fast and hope there was still time to keep them breathing. The first time I met Connor, he handed me a soldier with half his side torn open and said, "He's still breathing. Don't let him stop." I didn't. I think that moment, the dirt on his face, the calm in his voice while rounds cracked nearby, that's when I noticed him. Not like a crush. Not like a daydream. But like gravity. After that, we kept seeing each other. Not in bars. Not in normal ways. Just in hell. I'd land under fire. He'd be there, covering us from the ridge. I'd hear his voice on the comms, flat and focused. Like a tether to something solid. He got shot in the shoulder once. Didn't flinch. Finished the mission. Then passed out the second I got him strapped to the stretcher. I stitched him up in the back of the bird with the light bouncing, and his blood soaking through my gloves. He woke up once and muttered, "You've got a gentle touch, document real delicate." He smelled like dust and diesel. I think I fell in love with him that night, somewhere between the blood and the sarcasm. I remember the wind picking up as we lifted off, the noise deafening in the cabin. I was straddling the narrow space beside him, stabilizing his arm as the morphine kicked in. For a second, he looked up at me like he was memorizing something. Like even through the haze of pain, he knew this was one of those moments that carves itself into you. Back on the ground, I handed him off to the field medic. He grabbed my wrist before they wheeled him away and said, "Don't disappear." I didn't. Not really. Every op after that, I scanned the manifests and the chatter for his name. For his voice. I started recognizing his footfall before he came around a corner. Noticed the way he always carried his weapon at a specific angle. The small rituals that made you stay sane. It wasn't love then. Not fully. But it was the start of something just as dangerous. Something that felt like hope, in a place where hope was usually the first thing to die. We were in Syria when it shifted. The op was bad from the start. Intel was off. We were too exposed. And then all comms went dead. I was flying a medevac loop when the call came through, broken, barely a whisper. "Bird 3-2, this is Iron Fong. We're pinned. Need evac. No backup." I knew that voice. I rerouted without asking permission. By the time I got to them, the smoke was thick and the world felt like it was falling apart. I sat down near a burned-out truck. Connor was crouched behind it with 2 wounded, and one of his team already gone. We were out of time and ammo. I grabbed the first casualty while Connor covered me, then the second. On the last run, a round clipped the edge of my vest, threw me into the dirt. He dragged me back behind the truck. And then we waited. 9 hours. No backup. No comms. Just 2 mags and too much silence. He kept the conversation light. Told me about this pizza place back home he swore made the best crust in the world. I told him about my mom's lasagna. We were both shaking. Pretending we weren't. He held my hand under the twisted metal and whispered, "If we make it out, I owe you dinner. Real one. Not in a tent." We made it out. He never broke that promise. Later, I found out he'd been hit again, grazed to the thigh. Didn't even mention it. Just focused on keeping me conscious, cracking jokes, handing me sips of warm water from a crushed canteen. I remember falling asleep against his shoulder. Just for a second. Just to forget where we were. Our knees were drawn in close to our chests, fingers still on our weapons, but our heads leaned together like we were something softer than war. When the bird finally came, and we climbed in, he sat with one arm still bleeding and the other gripping my wrist. It wasn't about survival anymore. It was about each other. We barely spoke on the flight back, just watched the desert pull away beneath us like a burned-up dream. But that silence said everything. He kept his promise. Took me to that pizza place when we got stateside for a break. We sat in a corner booth, uniforms still creased, hands brushing under the table like two people trying to believe in normal again. And I did. With him I believed. It wasn't romantic at first. It was survival. A routine. But somewhere between MREs and after-action reports it shifted. Quietly. He'd bring me coffee before dawn if we were at the same FOB. He'd sit with me even when no one talked. Sometimes just close enough to remind me I wasn't alone. He made me laugh. That dry, sharp humor that sneaks up on you. I hadn't laughed in months before I met him. Not really. We shared stories. The bad ones. The ones you don't tell unless you trust someone not to flinch. And he never flinched. Not once. After a mission in Somalia we were both wrecked. Emotionally, physically, spiritually. The sky was orange, and the air still smelled like cordite. I was sitting on a supply crate, staring at nothing. He sat beside me. Didn't speak at first. Then he said, "You're the only thing that feels real out here." I looked at him. He looked so tired. So raw. And I kissed him. Not desperate. Not wild. Just real. He kissed me back like he'd been waiting since forever. That night we didn't sleep. We just sat together in a borrowed tent, passing a flask back and forth, shoulders touching, not speaking. It was the kind of silence that doesn't feel empty. Just full of things words couldn't carry. In the dark, I felt his hand find mine again. I think that's when I knew, this wasn't just war comfort. This was something we'd carry home, whether we made it out or not. There was a language between us. Not just words but glances. The way he'd pass me a bottle of water without me asking. The way I'd always know which pocket held his painkillers. We memorized each other in chaos. Later, when we were back in our cots, I'd lie awake and replay his voice in my head. His laugh, when I managed to get a joke past his walls. The way his shoulders would drop the slightest bit when I was near. It was nothing big. Just a slow, inevitable unraveling of the wall between us. And in that war-built space, something delicate bloomed. When we weren't deployed together, we wrote letters. Old school pen and paper kind. He said it felt safer than email. More honest. I kept them all. Some were short. Just a line or two. Others read like confessions. I don't dream when you're not around. Today was bad. Thinking of you helped. I saw a hawk overhead today and thought of you. Weird, right? I'd read them at night in my bunk. Or during the longest flights. When the silence stretched like thread about to snap. I never told him, but I kept one in my vest, folded next to my spare gauze pads. It was bloodstained by the end of that tour. I still have it. He never said, "I love you" in those letters. But he didn't have to. I could read it between every damn word. He once sent me a sketch he'd drawn, just our hands side by side, the veins and knuckles. He said it helped him stay calm. That drawing's in a frame now beside our bed. My letters were messier. More raw. I told him things I hadn't said out loud before. About the people I couldn't save. The guilt I carried like body armor. The nights I couldn't breathe. He always wrote back. And his words made the weight just a little easier to carry. Once, I sent him a snapshot someone took of me laughing during chow. I circled my face and wrote, "Proof I'm still here." He sent one back. A blurry shot of him in sunglasses, middle of nowhere, dust and shadow. On the back he wrote, "Still fighting." It wasn't poetic. It was necessary. Those letters became the bones of what we were building. A story told one envelope at a time. Even now, I still find them sometimes, tucked into old bags or between pages of field manuals. Little time capsules of a love born under gunfire. The last operation we did together before heading home was in Mosul. Everything that could go wrong did. Civilian crossfire. Fragile intel. Doublebacks and no easy exits. Connor was hit in the leg. I was already in the air when I got the call. I turned the bird around before they finished the sentence.
I landet under morter 4.
He was dragging himself toward the evac point. When I jumped out and pulled him in, he grabbed my collar, pulled me close and said, "Don't leave me." It wasn't a joke. It wasn't bravado. It was a plea. "I won't. I told him. I never will. He passed out in my arms. And I kept whispering it, even after he was unconscious. Over and over. I never will. Later, in the field hospital, when he woke up, I was there beside him. He looked at me and said, I saw your face. Thought I was hallucinating. Nope, I said. Just me. Same as ever. You came back. Always. We didn't say it, not out loud, but that day that rescue changed everything. It shifted our story from maybe to something closer to inevitable. He stayed in recovery longer than expected. I visited every day. Brought bad coffee, dog-eared paperbacks, and stories from the hangars. We played cards. Sometimes we sat in silence and just listened to each other breathe. He told me then, not in a grand speech but in that quiet way he always did, that if we made it through this, he wanted something real. No more maybes, he said. No more waiting for hell to bring us together. And I said yes, without even thinking. Because I'd been saying yes to him since the day he handed me that blood-soaked soldier, and trusted me with everything. We both made it home. Different places, different bases, but eventually, one leave at a time, we found each other again. He moved to my city first. Said he liked the trees better. I think it was just me. The transition was brutal. He didn't sleep. Neither did I. Some nights he'd wake up gasping, soaked in sweat. I'd curl around him and hold on like we were still in that bird, still in that burned-out truck, still at war. We got help. Counseling. Group therapy. Meds sometimes. But mostly we got through it together. He started fixing up an old motorcycle. Said he liked having something to repair that didn't scream back. I started flying civilian medevac. Sky still felt like home. We were quiet. Simple. Honest. And it was enough. But it wasn't easy. He had this way of disappearing into himself, not physically but mentally. I could be 2 feet away and still feel a mile apart. I'd leave him notes. See you tonight. Your favorites in the fridge. And he'd leave notes back. Thanks for staying. We both kept little routines. He always made the bed military tight. I always folded his undershirts the way he liked. These things became our anchors. We learned to fight too. The healthy way.
No shouting.
Just long talks on the porch until the stars came out and one of us finally broke the silence with a joke. Usually him. We learned to touch often without reason, a hand to the shoulder, a kiss to the cheek before coffee. We weren't fixing each other. We were simply choosing to stay. Every single day. When I got a contract to fly again, this time domestic, short hops, I didn't expect it to rattle us. But the night before my first flight, I found a note in my helmet. Come home. Always. He'd tucked it in there without a word. Folded neat. Just like his letters. Every mission since he's done it. Sometimes they say, don't die or I'll kill you. Sometimes it's just a heart. Once it said, you still have to try that pizza, remember? It's become our thing. My tether. He even slipped one into my lunchbox once. Wrapped around my sandwich with a rubber band. Still owe you dessert for Mosul. He doesn't make a big deal out of it. I'll find the notes taped to my thermos, tucked into jacket pockets, once even scribbled on a napkin and shoved in my flight bag. But they always show up. Sometimes they say nothing profound. Just, breathe. Sometimes they say everything. I love the way you look when you check your gear. One night, after a late flight and a storm delay, I got home and found him asleep on the couch, the helmet on the table beside him. The note that time just said, I'll wait. I framed that one. It's the quiet way he loves me, not loud or dramatic, just steady, persistent, like breathing. And in a world where everything once felt like fire and noise, that kind of love feels like salvation. We visited an old teammate of his one weekend. Campfire in the woods. Whiskey. No war talk, not directly. Just glances, nods, memories exchanged in silence. That night under the stars, Connor pulled me into his lap and said, you saved me. I shook my head. You would have made it. He kissed my temple. I don't mean in the field. I mean everywhere else. And that was the first night I said it. Really said it. I love you. He smiled just barely. I know. I've always known. We sat like that for a long time, his arms wrapped around me, his breath steady. For once, neither of us felt like we were running from something. The fire crackled and the sky above was clear, for the first time in a long time. In the days after, something shifted between us. Like the weight we'd both carried for years had finally been named. We didn't talk about it much. We didn't need to. But every touch was softer. Every goodbye longer. He started keeping a toothbrush at my place. I gave him a drawer. Then a key. When I left on a flight, he packed snacks in my bag. When he had nightmares, I was already reaching for him before he even called out. We weren't trying to be perfect. We were just trying to be real. And that night by the fire? It burned something new into us. Not fear, not memory, but the first warm ember of a life we were building. One kiss and scar at a time. Now we live in a small house on the edge of a forest. Quiet. Simple. We fight over dumb things, toothpaste caps, thermostat settings. We cry during movies. We wake up to old ghosts. He plants tomatoes. I forget to water them. He holds my hand when I'm tired. I touch his back when he's tense. We don't talk about war much anymore. Not out loud. But some mornings, when the light hits just right, and the coffee steams between us, we'll catch each other's eyes and nod, like saying, we made it. And we did. He builds birdhouses now. Keeps a knife in his boot out of habit. I keep bandages in the bathroom drawer just in case. We still move like soldiers sometimes, but we sleep like survivors. The house smells like cinnamon on weekends. We read in bed, legs tangled, books open between us. We don't say I love you every day, but we live it, in how we cook dinner side by side, or how he remembers how I take my tea. Sometimes he plays guitar on the porch. Badly. I tease him. He grins. And everything feels possible. There are moments that still knock the wind out of me. A sudden sound, a face in a crowd, the weight of old loss. But when I turn, he's always there, grounding me. This is our new kind of war. Healing, softness, choosing peace. And we win it, every time we say, I'm here. War gave me scars I'll never erase. But it also gave me him. It gave me purpose and pain and a reason to keep going. He still smells like dust and diesel sometimes. Still sharp-eyed. Still quiet. But when he smiles it feels like safety. And when he reaches for me in the night, sweaty, scared, half-lost, I'm already there. Holding him. We didn't fall in love in a movie. We fell in love in fire. And we keep choosing each other every single day. Some people save you once. Some people save you every single day just by staying. And I'd go through all the fire again, if it meant finding him on the other side. Every scar. Every nightmare. Every godforsaken minute in the dust. All of it, worth it. Because in a world that tried to tear us apart, we held. And we still do. He still leaves notes. I still read them like scripture. When I'm in the air, I swear I can feel his heartbeat beneath mine. When he's asleep and the nightmares come, I hold him like armor. We visit the VA together sometimes. Speak at small events. People always ask how we made it through. We never really have an answer. Just a glance, a half smile, a hand squeeze that says, together. And isn't that the truth of it? We were fire. We were ash. We were everything in between. But now we are home. And love, real love, is the soft place we land after the war ends. It's the truest mission we've ever taken. And we're still completing it every day. Together.